Republicans on Capitol Hill have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of that.
Sir, I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So, I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She is always identified as a Black woman. She went to a historically Black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir.
The way he says it is funny, though. And a Black person. It is kind of funny. It has a little bit of the Maduro, Elon Musk kind of vibe to it. Welcome to the show. Dana Lash here with you. Top of this first hour, you can listen coast to coast. I mean, if you're listening to me, you know how. If you're watching me, you know how. If you're listening to me and not watching me, you can watch the radio show. I'm having a great flipping hair day today. So you should enjoy it. I'll probably talk about my dog some later. So, Channel 347 DirecTV, also X and Rumble, where there's a good discussion, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so, yeah, I'm in a mood today because it's been, like, really crazy. So, this was at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. And the media has been so eager to render a verdict on new Trump, right? That they think that this event with Black journalists yesterday is going to give them that opportunity. And I sent out a piece in the newsletter about this, like some of the headlines, like so much for new Trump and Republicans reel at Trump's embarrassing remarks about Kamala Harris and all of this stuff and on and on. I mean, I saw like a number of these questions, Kane, and you saw a lot of them too, that he was asked by this. I'm looking at her name, Rachel Scott. Is she with ABC?
No, I don't.
Who's this broad with? Because I think he said at one point, oh, she's like with ABC or something.
He mentioned ABC. I remember in that interview, but he was pointing to George Stephanopoulos when he was talking about
okay. Because
ABC.
I was looking, I was like, wait a minute, was she? So anyway, so in looking at this, I was looking at this piece, and looking at this, the way all of the pieces, by the way, because the media has been apoplectic over this, and I disagree with what they've been saying about, new Trump. Oh, this is supposed to be new Trump. I don't know what they were expecting. What did they think was going to happen with us? I don't know. But I also don't think that the reaction was unwarranted. Because let's look at it like, right out of the gate here. I mean, the questions that she immediately went out to ask. I mean, you don't just immediately go out and show your ass when you're interviewing someone in that forum. Okay, this was supposed to be a forum, and I guess Kamala Harris was supposed to show up and she didn't, or she was going to show up via Zoom or something to that extent. So it's the National Association of Black Journalists, their convention, and like I said, this Rachel Scott girl, her demeanor right out of the gate was very different from the way in which she engaged with other like-minded officials, like the way that she engaged with other politicians that were more in line with how she thought. Her demeanor was different because she didn't start with any greetings. Usually when you go out there and you're in one of these settings, the golden rule as the interviewer is to make that person feel comfortable, the guest feel comfortable and receptive to answering questions, because that's the goal, isn't it? The goal is not to get out there and yank your own chain and get higher in your own supply and, glorify yourself. You're supposed to go out there and glean information from a candidate or from your guest that people are assembling. They're there to have a greater understanding. So she immediately disregards like any greetings and salutations, and they were running 35 minutes late because they had audio issues. And mind that, like they had audio issues. You have an entire thing of like tech people and videographers and journalists and all this stuff, and it took them 35 minutes to get their straightened out. And so they were running late, and he made mention of that. But she immediately comes right out of the gate and is just, she's an ass. There's no other nice way to say it, and I don't feel prevailed upon to say it in a nice way because I don't have the energy to be courteous to trash. I am tired, especially not today, and I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of it. So she's asking him questions like basically, why are you a giant racist? And he just has enough. Audio sound by 5.
It's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love
think
if
it's
you
a
can answer
very
the question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered the
black voters should
question.
trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions.
So I think that was completely legit. I think that he had every reason to be angry over that and to point that out. I can be of two sides about this, but the longer the day goes on, I'm really leaning to one side only in viewing this, as you can imagine. Where's the one where it's the DEI one? It was the DEI question. And I had it on Substack, so there's no reason why we shouldn't have that audio. But that was the question, the only question that I thought where he could have, I think, used it as a springboard to just utterly destroy her completely and totally. Is it audio sound by 4? Because is this the DEI one? Yeah, I think that's the one. Where he's literally verbatim asked about DEI? Okay, can you play it, Kane, please?
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
Give me
a definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question,
a
very direct question.
Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage.
All right,
I didn't know she was black.
We heard that one. So she asks him specifically about the DEI, because that's been one of the questions that we've heard over and over again. It's president, blah, 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 DEI. Because there's been a lot of criticism, I guess, over Republicans and that question, right? So she asks him about the DEI aspect of it, right? And so my only criticism of this has been, I think his response should have been, oh, you mean like how Biden defined it, right? I mean, because, ultimately, let's be honest, that's how Biden defined it. I mean, he could have immediately gone into it and said, you mean DEIs and diversity, equity, and inclusion, the way that Biden described it, right? And described her on camera, and also in the transcript of the speech that he gave on camera that was posted to the White House website. Do you mean that? Because, and then he could have followed up with, what does that have to do with Republicans? What is? By the way, let's do flashback on that. This is literally Biden saying it. Listen.
They're trying to erase black history. We're going to write black history because it's American history. It's American history. Together we make history, not erase it. To me, the values of diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country. And starts at the top with the Vice President. On Memorial Day, I proudly stood with a black man, the highest order, the first black Secretary of Defense, second black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
See, so he's saying it. And by the way, I have the screenshot of it. It says to me, the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion are literally, and this is not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history that taps into the full talents of our country. And it starts at the top with the vice president. And then he describes Kamala Harris. So he's talking about a DEI hire and he names it as the vice president. So what the hell does that have to do with Republicans? So he's asked that. I just wish that he would have said it. His aides should have had him queued right up to do it. I think he needs better aides. People can get mad at me and do this like petty circle jerk jockeying thing for power and influence in the back channel, but I'm going to be here longer than you will. So that's what his aides, they should have tipped him to say that because he would have just destroyed her. What is she going to do after that? What do you do after that? Biden said it. Biden defined it. And what does this have to do with Republicans? We're quoting him. And, blah, blah, blah.